Tonight we're launching a new feature that I think you're going to like, and I hope that you'll help us with it. I know from working as a reporter here for 32 years that our region is really full of great people. Yes, the news often focuses on the 1% who are real jerks, and we're still going to do that sometimes. But for the most part, in my experience, people are good and decent. We want to celebrate the lives of those people, especially people that most of us have never heard of. We sometimes profile the famous folks who've died, but that's not what we're talking about here. We want people that you know most folks have never heard of. We want your family, your neighbors, your friends. I'm asking you to think about nominating someone like that. Let us know about them. Someone you know who has died in the past year or so from whatever cause. This is not a COVID thing either. We just ask that you be ready to gather up pictures or video and at least one person who will help us tell their story on camera. And then send us an email and tell us about your person. Again, the email address is thestory@kgw.com. I know it's a little strange, a little unusual, but we're trying to bring some humanity into the show and into the news in general. We're not a typical news program. I'll go first. I'd like to introduce you to my former neighbor, Minnie Bell Johnson, who died in January 2021 at the age of 103. Minnie Bell Johnson was born in 1917 in St. Louis, Missouri. This is one of the earliest pictures of her on her grandmother's front porch. In 1940, her family moved to Portland and lived at the corner of Northeast Broadway and Williams, across the street from the Broadwill Pharmacy.
So they moved into the heart of the albino Black community.
That's Minnie Bell's granddaughter, Pam. I met her and her mom, Joan, Minnie Bell's daughter, to talk about her life.
This is a compilation of photos.
We looked back through the pages of time. Here she is with her husband.
Aldridge Gomez Johnson.
Wow, there's a name.
Yeah, but she called him Babe. Yeah, she called him Babe. And yes, because he was little.
Okay.
Yeah, and he walked real fast.
He worked for the Union Pacific Railroad as a waiter on trains that traveled from Portland to Chicago and back. Minnie Bell worked at the Myron Frank department store, then for a catering company, and eventually started her own catering business. It was a busy time for a woman with 3 children and a husband often traveling. She also played a big role in her beloved Bethel AME Church. This is a gathering of some of the church ladies there. Minnie Bell, an extrovert, loved being involved with others.
She would maybe cater a party, come home, have a club meeting, and then she may have a church meeting later on that day. And then, we can't forget that she bowled.
Oh, yeah.
For 40 years.
Yeah.
Minnie Bell always had something going on.
I loved being in her house and in her presence just as a kid, because her house was just like a hub. Remember how people would always just stop by?
Hi, Minnie Bell.
Hi, Minnie Bell. Yeah, and she'd say, hey, doll. She called everybody doll.
She also broke barriers. In 1943, Minnie Bell was invited to join an intercultural fellowship with other women in Portland.
She was invited to join a group of women just to get together and socialize, but there were Black women, there were Japanese women, there were Jewish women, and they all just wanted to come together to converse and get to know one another.
Didn't matter where you were from or what you looked like?
They didn't care.
That's great.
Yeah, they didn't care.
I love it.
Yeah.
The women eventually decided to more than just meet. They put on their nice clothes and tried to get served at Portland restaurants that served only whites at the time. That led to boycotts and pressure from the Portland Council of Churches to end the discrimination there and elsewhere. Her son Howard shared Minnie Bell's home in her later years.
Here's one action shot.
He'll always remember his parents and grandma supported his love of ice hockey, which he discovered as a child and followed into his adult years. It was something few African Americans did back then in Portland, but to Minnie Bell and family, it was no big deal.
Very honest, very open, very religious, and giving. Even if she saw something bad, she would still try to get around it, try to look past it, because there's always going to be good in everybody.
Granddaughter Pam absorbed the life lessons taught each day.
I think I learned had to be, sorry.
What are you trying to say?
Had to be resilient. Because she never, ever complained. And just, given when she was born and things that were happening in the world, she had to have had difficulties, but she just absolutely never complained about anything.
In her later years, Minnie Bell barely slowed down, attending church meetings and chatting with neighbors and delighting neighborhood children, including mine, with her laughter and her love. Howard was there at the very end. He's still grieving now.
2.5 hours later, I got the call that she was gone. And she was still smiling. When I got back, she still had the same expression on her face, and I knew she was happy, but it was hard on me. Very, very hard.
Minnie Bell Johnson had a long and fascinating life. You would have liked her. We all sure did.
Yeah. Yeah, we miss her. But she had a good life.
Yes, she did. The neighborhood's not the same without her. Please consider emailing us with someone you think that we should profile. I hope to do this once a week. Our email is thestory@kgw.com.